the consciousness is coming from the soul. Like if the soul is compared to a spark, then the consciousness is a light that's coming out from the spark. Now, the soul is conscious, just as fire has automatically light in it. But when you come to the material nature, we become subjected to different degrees of covering. Like, for example, there is a state of consciousness which is completely covered. Like, for example, trees and plants. They're conscious, but their consciousness is covered. Then, a state of shrunken consciousness. Like from insects, worms to animals. They're in a shrunken state of consciousness. I mean, you can see that it's obvious that they're conscious, but their consciousness is in a shrunken state. And then comes the human beings. Their consciousness has been compared to a bud. A bud is apparently in a shrunken state, right? But the bud has the ability to bloom. Now, in order for the bud to bloom, it needs two factors: exposure to the sun and shelter of the water. When the bud is exposed to sun with the shelter of the water, it begins to bloom. Similarly, when human beings are exposed to Krishna, who is compared to the sun, under the shelter and guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, then his consciousness begins to bloom. So here, as you are saying, that actual blooming or blossoming of consciousness is relative to exposure to Krishna under the guidance of a spiritual master. And this exposure, what actually happens? It removes the ignorance. And natural consciousness becomes manifest. Spiritual development is like, removing the coverings and letting the light come out naturally.